Hello, everyone, and welcome to Painless Universal, a conversation with myself and Welsh. Today, I'll be talking to Carina. Carina is a woman of courage, a woman who's determined, a strong woman out there, who is determined to make a change, utilizing her platform and her company. She's a woman who was diagnosed with spina bifida from a very young age, and that has never stopped her. She's gone on to do great things and be the change the world would not create. She saw a gap in the fashion industry, not having stylish gloves for people who are disabled, and she started her own company called Hands of Warriors, making stylish gloves for people who are disabled, that they go out and look at their hands and still feel pretty. We'll be talking about all things, starting a business, living with this disability, being born in a wheelchair all her life, and most importantly, the coronavirus and its effects on her. Meet Carina. Hello, everyone. Welcome again to Painless Universal, a conversation with myself and Welsh. I've got the amazing Carina here with me. Carina, thank you so much for joining me. How are you today?
I'm good, thank you. I'm fine.
Oh, gosh. I know I reached out to you. And I'm very happy I did, because I saw your company and the work your company was doing. And it was something very unusual. It's not something anyone would really think about, We go on with our daily lives, but we never really think about the fashion side of people, either people in wheelchair, what it doesn't matter what disability you might be going through. But you still will like fashion, and you like things to be look nice, not just done to a certain standard. And I really applaud you for doing that. But I'm not going to go too much into detail, because I want this to be about you telling us a little bit about yourself. Can you tell us, who is Carina?
Okay, so I am a entrepreneur who has founded a company called Hands of Warriors, and Hands of Warriors provides wheelchair gloves to wheelchair users that specifically are designed to look attractive and like anything else that you would get on the market in terms of leather gloves, like on the high street, but also perform in a way that truly supports a wheelchair user's needs. I'm a wheelchair user myself. I have spina bifida, which I was born with, so I'm paraplegic. And I was also diagnosed with chronic fatigue syndrome, or ME, when I was 24, so 8 years ago. And so I have a specific perspective that is, I suppose, helpful to knowing what the needs of other disabled people are.
I know, it's just truly amazing, because we know, with your talent and with you being in a wheelchair, you kind of understand that this is exactly what they need, and they just don't want to have it. They want it to look nice. Could you just tell me a little bit about what is spina bifida, for those who don't know what exactly it is?
Yeah, sure. So it's a congenital condition. So basically, before I was even born, I was paralyzed from the waist down, because the spine doesn't develop properly when you're developing as a baby inside the womb. So spina bifida comes in a few different forms, and the one that I have is kind of the most severe. So yeah, I was born paraplegic, so it's very similar to spinal cord injury, really, in terms of the symptoms that you have.
Oh, wow. And so are you saying that someone who's born with spina bifida, like yourself, is it from birth that you don't walk, or does it happen gradually? Was there a time when you were able to walk and then you then go onto wheelchair, or is this something you've never ever been able to do?
So I So yeah, you usually, with the type of spine bifida I have, which is myomeningosyl, you can't walk at all from birth, because your spinal cord is pretty much exposed. It doesn't actually knit together as it should, so that kind of creates this hole, and then that is like the injury of the spinal cord. So I was born with very limited mobility. I could actually I could move my legs and I could weight bear, because I've got pictures of me kneeling, which I can't do now. So I've never been able to walk, and I've never been able to stand. However, I've had like a few of these, what do you call them? These contraptions called like a para walker, which is kind of like calipers, and they come up to here. They're very uncomfortable. So I had that a lot when I was young to try and kind of make me look more normal. But actually, I find that walking's overrated, and wheelchair is the way forward for me. It's much more comfortable, and so some people with spina bifida, because it depends on the type, they are born and they don't even know they've got it. And then later they find that they have issues, or they might not ever have issues. But then, yeah, some people with the one that I have, they're paraplegic from birth and can never walk, which is pretty much the category that I fit into.
Yeah.
And I've never missed it.
Oh, wow. One of the things I'm always concerned, in this conversation, we always want to talk about is that difficulty that brought you as a child growing up. How was that? Because I always picture you've been through it and you found your joy along the way. But it wasn't always that simple. It wasn't always that easy for you to understand, how do I fit into society, for you to become this successful entrepreneur. I read some of your articles. I've seen the work of Hands of Warrior, where you've displayed, where you've done a pop-up shop, and I was truly blown away. But it hasn't always been easy. What has been some of the challenges you faced and some of the pains you've had to endure growing up along the way?
I mean, I think most disabled people go through a part of their journey of being very led by medical professionals, and having to endure a lot of procedures, a lot of pain, a lot of sacrifice, in order to try to make your body more normal. And that was very much my childhood. I had many operations and procedures. I was in plaster up to my chest for like a year when I was 3, and I literally couldn't leave the house. And then because of that, I came out of plaster and broke my legs 5 times throughout a few years, and had to go into sheepskin, which was kind of like plaster, but you could take it off. So I could have hydrotherapy every day to strengthen my bones. So in terms of like my disability, my impairment, I went through a lot when I was a child, but I think the thing that helped me was that I had a very supportive family, and when you're a child, if your parents say to you everything's going to be okay, then you believe them, and that's what gets you through it. It's kind of more when you get when you're more of an adult and you actually realize the risks and stuff involved, that it's more of a challenge. But also I would say that one of the big pains that I have emotionally with growing up as a disabled child was isolation, and just feeling as though nobody really understood me, because I never actually socialised with anybody else that was disabled. I went to a mainstream school. I had friends that lived on my street that weren't disabled, and I never really actually developed that part of myself and related to it in a positive way until I became an adult.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
Oh wow, that's really, really amazing though. But you always found yourself. You never let that hold you back. How was that? How did you manage to, no matter what everyone was going through, no matter what that challenges were, how did you manage to still stay sane? Is it just your family that kept you grounded? Are they part of that decision? Or you just didn't see yourself being different?
Yeah, so I didn't see myself as disabled, and that pushed me through life, because I I thought that I kind of went around with this belief that I was able to do anything that I wanted to, just like all of my non-disabled peers. Um, the the negative side to that, though, was that I rejected that side of myself and developed a negative relationship to it. And there was definitely times when, in my life, when it has not been easy, mentally, psychologically, and that, I think, stems from developing this relationship with myself that um, rejects that side to me,
Mm,
which actually is the side that gives me the most strength as well. Um, and if you're continuously rejecting a really big part of yourself,
mm,
then that's going to have an impact on your psychological well-being.
that's true. That's really good. But I love the story of how you started Hands of Warrior. Well, where did you see the gap and why did you see the need to create something of this company?
Um, well, um, I I enjoy um, um, kind of looking stylish and putting my makeup on and doing my hair, just like, any other woman does.
Yeah.
And it gives me confidence, especially when I'm out in the street, and still nowadays people stare at me because I'm a wheelchair user. So it makes me feel more comfortable if I feel good about myself and how I look. So I naturally, just like anybody else, um, like shopping and like to buy the latest um, fashion, um, clothing. And what I found when I tried to find gloves for me as a wheelchair user was that there really wasn't anything on the market that was something that would work for me. So it was kind of two separate products. There was the ones that there were the wheelchair gloves that were specifically designed for wheelchair users, and they kind of are modelled on cycling gloves, so they look very sporty, and that's not kind of really the style that I have. So I felt like I didn't particularly want to wear them, um, though I did because there wasn't really much else on the market. And then the other option was to just buy a pair of gloves from the high street, and use them, and hope that they kind of stand up to the tests of using your wheelchair, with them on. But then I found that they just lasted, I would say, 2 weeks. They really just don't last at all. So that's where Hands of Warriors came in, and was created to try to get a middle ground.
So has it been how are people taking it? If you other people wheelchair users, how have they taken to finally having a product out there that is stylish and still usable? How are people taking that?
I mean, people have been very complimentary of products. They they very much appreciate the fact that somebody has created something like what I've created, and I think that that's kind of quite common in the field of disability, where there are so many opportunities actually to plug a hole,
Mm.
and people aren't doing it. So it really takes somebody that has that special, unique perspective to want to do it, and then to be motivated enough to actually make it a reality. Yeah, the disabled community have taken to my gloves very well, and this will kind of be the first winter that Hands of Warriors will be trading properly with like the whole range of gloves. So time will tell how much people like them.
Wow. And I really can't wait to hear how people take it on. It's Fashion Week right now, and in your view, it's September, February is always Fashion Week, especially in London. This time. In your view, how do you think the fashion industry has taken on the people with disability in terms of incorporating them into their designs? Do you think they're doing more, or more needs to be done to really, to get more? Because I think people don't realize that people with any kind of disability still love that high fashion. What would you say to that?
I would say that I think a lot more needs to be done, really. And actually, I think that's the case in the fashion industry in general, in terms of inclusion and diversity. I think that, we're just starting to allow different shaped bodies to be a part of the fashion shows. And disabled people's needs are really not addressed by the fashion industry. It kind of is taking people like myself to get things on the market. It doesn't seem to be taking really big organizations. They don't seem to be doing much. I recognize that there is some steps forward, but the fact is that if the fashion industry had actually, taken wheelchair users' needs into account and made stylish wheelchair gloves available on the high street, then there wouldn't have been a need for me to start Hands of Warriors. So I'm not unique in that. There's many other disabled people that have started a clothing line or accessories because nobody else is doing it.
Okay. So you just have to fill the gap as well, and hopefully they pick it up and realize that this is something that they need to incorporate in what they're doing, because people, wheelchair users, are equally love fashion as much as everyone else does. We're on this COVID-19. There might be a second wave, which we're hoping, hopefully, it's not as bad as the first wave. We don't have to have a lockdown. Wheelchair users are constantly, depends what kind of wheelchair you have. You're also at risk of getting infected, picking up germs by utilizing the wheelchair. What would your advice be to fellow wheelchair users in times like these, to make sure, not only do they get through this whole pandemic issue easily and deal with it well, but hygiene wise as well?
Yeah, I think that's something important to talk about, because actually no one else is. So, there's not actually, I haven't actually seen any guidelines published by our government or anything in the UK anyway, apart from charities, to say what wheelchair users should be doing. And obviously our hands are so important to us, and we're constantly using them. So in terms of picking up the infection on our hands, we could easily do that by just pushing our wheelchair and wheeling over something that has the virus on it and then touching our face. It would be far too easy for us to do that. So I have managed to find a few guidelines on what wheelchair users should be doing to look after themselves to prevent getting the virus, which is things such as when you've been outside, you should wipe down your tyres, you should wipe down your wheel rims, you should wipe down your handlebars, the brakes, anything that you're touching or a PA or carer is touching, because they could be carrying it. So if someone's pushing you, then obviously you should then wipe down the handlebars. And you might want to wear gloves, like Hands of Warriors gloves, which will help at least to keep you safe when you're out and about. And then as soon as you come in, you can take them off, wipe the gloves down and wash your hands, rather than just constantly being exposed to it. But obviously a lot of disabled people have compromised immune systems, so that makes us more susceptible as well to the virus. And obviously there are people that are in the shielding group who have had to sacrifice a lot because they've had to just stay in for a long time. And I think that in terms of people's mental health, I think that it's a challenging time for everybody. I find comfort in the fact that all of us are going through this together. So not just disabled people, but that, you know, the whole world is going through this, and we're all having to reduce our activities and stay in more, not do what we want to be able to do. And that fundamentally, when you're disabled, that is something that you live with. So be kind to yourself and be kind to others. Look after yourself and do what you have to make sure that you get through this crazy time.
Absolutely. No, it's absolutely, it's such a crazy time right now. And a lot of people are just in that panic. But I think you really hit the nail on the head that we're all in this together. So once you remember that key point, it makes it a lot easier. But the final question is that, what is your hopes for people like yourself? Because you've given so much people so much hope, especially myself. When I read your story, I was like, wow, there's a lady who's a wheelchair user. She's an entrepreneur. She's not letting the disadvantages that life threw at her get her down. And she's taken out and spin her own story. And wherever there is a gap, you fill that gap. What is your hope for others out there who are going through similar circumstances but not knowing how to find the lights at the end of that tunnel?
What's my hopes for them? My hopes are that they do find that light.
Yeah.
And what I would say is that it's hard. It is hard being disabled. It is a constant battle, and that's why I called the company Hands of Warriors, because we're constantly having to battle either our bodies or society. So what I would say is keep going, don't give up, continue, and get support from people around you. That is kind of a really important thing, though sometimes that will be hard because the people around you could actually make you feel more isolated if they don't understand. But again, I would say be kind to yourself. And I particularly, I went on a journey a few years ago with doing a lot of mindfulness. And as part of that, I discovered self-compassion techniques. And I find that they are very helpful to just give you a bit of a boost, and to just remind yourself that you are worthy, and you know, you are not a second class citizen, though sometimes you may be treated in that way. And that kind of that practice of looking after yourself is hard, but it's very, very powerful and worthwhile.
Well, thank you so much, Carina, Hands of Warrior founder, this beautiful message. And I do hope that this message inspires so many other people who are going through whether invisible illness or whether whatever kind of illness or disability one is going through, to utilize that to find their joy. And I'm so proud that you've done that, and keep shining and keep inspiring others, because they really need warriors. We all do. We need warriors like you, who don't wait for the gap to be filled by the majors and the big corporation, but go out there and fill your own gap and make it work for others. Thank you. Thank you, Carina.
Thank you very much for all the compliments, and and for this opportunity to be heard. So thank you.
I appreciate your time, and I look forward to catching up again with you soon. Thank you.
Thanks.